He doesn't belong here." The words sliced through the hushed murmurs of the showroom like a knife, sharp and deliberate. Alex froze, his worn sneakers suddenly heavy against the polished marble floor. Around him, champagne glasses clinked as designer suits and evening dresses swirled beneath crystal chandeliers, their owners pretending not to notice the 17-year-old in oil-stained jeans who had somehow infiltrated their exclusive world. The luxury cars gleamed under perfect lighting, their price tags representing amounts he wouldn't earn in 10 years of working at his uncle's garage. The Elite Motors showroom had transformed for tonight's exclusive unveiling of their new hypercar lineup. Security guards in tailored suits stood at every entrance, checking invitations with practiced scrutiny. Wealthy collectors mingled with celebrities, tech moguls with sports stars, a carefully curated guest list where every name carried weight and influence. Alex had spent weeks designing modifications for these very models, studying their engineering with reverent dedication. When his boss had given him the service entrance pass, it was supposed to be his reward, a chance to see automotive perfection up close, not from magazine pages. The floor manager approached, his smile tight and artificial. "I'm afraid I'll have to escort you out. This event is for clients only." His voice carried just enough to draw attention from nearby groups. Someone snickered. A woman whispered behind her hand. Alex's face burned as he clutched his notebook of designs. In the shadowed corner near the centerpiece vehicle, a sleek obsidian marvel of engineering, a figure in sunglasses shifted slightly. Robert Downey Jr. lowered his champagne glass, his casual observation transforming into focused attention. The next few minutes would change everything. Alex swallowed hard, willing his voice not to crack. "Sir, I'm just here to see the engineering. I've been studying these models for months." His fingers trembled slightly as he opened his notebook, revealing meticulously detailed sketches of engine modifications and aerodynamic improvements. The floor manager barely glanced at them before closing the book with a dismissive snap. "This isn't a field trip for hobbyists. These vehicles start at $3 million. Our clients expect a certain atmosphere." The manager's eyes flicked meaningfully to Alex's faded Metallica t-shirt and the grease still embedded beneath his fingernails despite his desperate scrubbing in the garage bathroom. Around them, the beautiful people continued their elegant orbit of the showroom, champagne flutes catching the light like liquid diamonds. A venture capitalist loudly discussed how he'd purchased 2 models, one for the Hamptons house, one for Monaco. A reality TV star posed for selfies with a pearlescent white supercar, never intending to learn what lay beneath its hood. Alex's passion for automotive engineering had begun at age 7, when his father had first allowed him to hold a wrench. By 12, he could rebuild a transmission. At 15, he had designed his first engine modification. Now, at 17, he had already saved 2 years' worth of paychecks for community college engineering courses. "I understand these cars better than half the people here," Alex said, his voice quiet but steady. This wasn't just bravado. Last summer, he had correctly diagnosed a problem with a customer's Italian sports car that had stumped the dealership mechanics for weeks. The manager's smile tightened. "That's irrelevant. This event isn't about understanding, it's about purchasing." He placed a firm hand on Alex's shoulder, steering him toward the service exit. "Let me explain something, young man. In this world, there are the people who buy the cars and the people who fix them. You're in the second category." A few onlookers chuckled, amused by the spectacle. A silver-haired man in a bespoke suit shook his head. Kids these days have no sense of boundaries. His companion, dripping in jewelry, nodded in agreement. The help should know their place. Their words carried across the showroom's perfect acoustics, designed to amplify the purr of exotic engines, but now broadcasting Alex's humiliation with equal efficiency. He felt each syllable like a physical blow, his dream of someday creating vehicles that would stand in showrooms like this one suddenly seeming childishly naive. The centerpiece car, the new Elite Phantom, gleamed in the spotlight, its obsidian finish absorbing and reflecting light in ways that seemed to defy physics. "I've spent 3 years working on a hybrid propulsion system that could improve your flagship's efficiency by 22% without compromising performance," Alex said, a last desperate attempt to justify his presence. His voice cracked slightly as the manager's grip tightened on his shoulder. "That's fascinating," the manager replied with theatrical patience that made several nearby guests smirk. "Perhaps you could email your ideas to our customer relations department." The dismissal was absolute, couched in corporate politeness that somehow made it more crushing. As they approached the service exit, Alex noticed the man in sunglasses had moved closer, seemingly examining the limited edition watch display near the door. There was something familiar about him, the confident posture, the carefully maintained goatee. Alex had seen him somewhere before, but the humiliation fogging his brain made recognition difficult. The manager's phone buzzed. He frowned at the screen, then answered with an instant transformation to fawning deference. "Yes, Mr. Harrington, of course, sir. Immediately." He released Alex and straightened his tie. "Excuse me, a VIP client requires attention." He pointed firmly at the exit. "Don't make me call security." As the manager hurried away, Alex stood frozen, the weight of dozens of judgmental gazes pressing on him from all sides. The distance to the exit seemed to stretch endlessly, a walk of shame through the very world he had dreamed of joining through his talent and dedication. The man in sunglasses removed them slowly, tucking them into his jacket pocket. Recognition hit Alex like a physical force. Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark himself, was standing less than 10 feet away, watching the entire exchange with an unreadable expression. Alex had grown up idolizing not just the actor's on-screen persona as the brilliant engineer-turned-superhero, but also his real-life story of redemption and reinvention. Countless interviews where Downey spoke about second chances and the importance of recognizing talent in unexpected places had inspired Alex through his toughest days at the garage. "Excuse me," Downey said, his voice carrying that distinctive cadence familiar from a dozen blockbusters. The remaining conversations in the showroom quickly hushed as heads turned toward the celebrity in their midst. "Did I just hear correctly that this young man designed a hybrid propulsion system?" The floor manager reappeared instantly, materializing as if summoned by the sound of fame. "Mr. Downey, sir, such an honor to have you with us tonight. I apologize for any disruption. We're just handling a small security matter." "Security matter?" Downey repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Interesting framing." He gestured toward Alex. "From what I overheard, this seems less like a security issue and more like an educational opportunity." The atmosphere in the showroom shifted perceptibly. Phones emerged from pockets and purses as the elite clientele sensed a social media moment unfolding. The manager's smile faltered as he calculated the new variables in this equation: the unscripted interaction with a major celebrity, the potential for viral content, the delicate balance of enforcing exclusivity while not offending a Hollywood icon. "Sir, this event is restricted to invited guests and potential buyers," the manager explained, his voice professionally cordial but strained. "I see." Downey nodded thoughtfully, approaching the centerpiece vehicle, the Elite Phantom. He ran a hand appreciatively along its flawless finish. "And what defines a potential buyer? The clothes they wear or the knowledge they possess?" The manager laughed nervously, aware that every eye in the room was fixed on this unexpected confrontation. "Well, naturally, sir, we welcome all serious buyers, regardless of attire. But this young man is—" he hesitated, searching for the most diplomatic phrasing, "not in a position to make a purchase." "Fascinating assumption," Downey replied, his tone conversational, yet somehow carrying to every corner of the hushed showroom. "When I walked into my first film audition, I wasn't in a position to direct a blockbuster either, but the potential was there." He turned toward Alex. "What's your name, kid?" "Alex Reyes, sir." His voice came out steadier than he expected. "Alex Reyes," Downey repeated, as if testing the sound of it. "Tell me about this propulsion system." The spotlight of attention swung violently toward Alex. Wealthy patrons who had been dismissing him moments ago now stared with curious intensity. He felt his mouth go dry, but one look at Downey's encouraging nod gave him the courage to continue. "It's a magnetic electric hybrid that maintains the traditional engine's torque while reducing carbon emissions by nearly 25%. The words tumbled out as Alex opened his notebook again. "I've been working on it for 3 years, testing miniature prototypes in my uncle's garage." Downey examined the sketches with genuine interest. "This reminds me of something my character was developing in the second film," he said, then smiled. "Though yours actually looks like it would work in reality." A ripple of laughter moved through the crowd, but it wasn't mocking anymore. The energy had transformed. Downey's interest had legitimized Alex, creating a bubble of temporary acceptance within the exclusive environment. "Where did you learn this?" Downey asked, flipping through more pages of designs. "Mostly self-taught, sir. YouTube videos, technical manuals, trial and error. I work at my uncle's garage after school." The manager cleared his throat, attempting to regain control of the situation. "Mr. Downey, while this is certainly inspirational, we do have the unveiling scheduled in 15 minutes. Perhaps we could arrange for the young man to submit his ideas through proper channels." "Proper channels," Downey echoed, looking thoughtful. "Let me ask you something." He addressed the question to the room at large. "How many people here actually understand what makes these beautiful machines run?" A few hands raised hesitantly. "Now, how many are planning to purchase one tonight?" Significantly more hands went up, including those of people who had been most vocal in mocking Alex earlier. "Interesting disconnect, isn't it?" Downey turned back to the manager. "I've learned something valuable in my career. True innovation rarely comes through proper channels." The crowd murmured, capturing snippets of the exchange on their phones. A tech billionaire near the champagne fountain nodded appreciatively, while a famous rapper gave an audible "truth." Several members of the crowd who had been coldly dismissive now appeared uncomfortably self-aware. "Mr. Reyes here represents something essential to the automotive industry: passion and innovation from the ground up." Downey gestured toward Alex's notebook. "These aren't the doodles of a hobbyist. These are the blueprints of someone who understands cars at their core." Alex stood straighter, a complex mixture of emotions washing over him: validation, pride, lingering embarrassment, and growing hope. The manager's expression had transformed into barely concealed panic as he realized the potential PR disaster unfolding. Ejecting a teenager who had caught the attention of Robert Downey Jr. would generate exactly the wrong kind of viral content. "Perhaps," the manager began carefully, "we could make an exception given the special circumstances." "Not an exception," Downey corrected firmly, "a recognition of merit." He turned to face the crowd. "After all, isn't that what all this is supposed to be about? Recognizing exceptional achievement?" The manager's pleasant mask slipped completely. "Mr. Downey, with all due respect, this is a private corporate event. We determine the guest list based on specific criteria." "And what criteria would those be?" Downey asked, his tone remaining conversational, yet penetrating. He took a step closer to the manager, creating an intensity that made several guests shift uncomfortably. "Is it the size of someone's bank account, the fame of their name, or perhaps their understanding of what makes these magnificent machines truly exceptional?" The Elite Motors CEO emerged from a back office, alerted by staff to the escalating situation. "Robert, wonderful to see you," he called, approaching with practiced cordiality. "I hope everything is to your satisfaction." "Charles," Downey greeted him with recognition, but without the expected warmth. "Perfect timing. We were just discussing your company's vision for innovation." Charles Harrington, impeccably dressed and expertly media-trained, sensed the undercurrents immediately. Innovation is the cornerstone of Elite Motors, always has been. "Then help me understand something," Downey said, gesturing toward Alex. "This young man has developed engineering concepts that could potentially advance your vehicles beyond their current capabilities. Yet your staff was escorting him out, not because he was disruptive, but because he doesn't look like your typical customer." The room had gone completely silent. Even the soft background music seemed to have stopped, though it hadn't. Phones captured every moment, but no one dared speak. The CEO maintained his smile, though it had grown significantly more forced. "A misunderstanding, I'm sure," Harrington responded smoothly. "Elite Motors has always valued technical brilliance." He turned to Alex. "Young man, my apologies if you were made to feel unwelcome." "That's generous," Downey interjected before Alex could respond. "But I'm curious, would you have said that if I hadn't been standing here?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Harrington's expression flickered momentarily before he recovered. "We value all automotive enthusiasts, Mr. Downey." "Really?" Downey moved toward the centerpiece vehicle, resting his hand on its gleaming hood. "Then let me propose something interesting. Alex here has studied your cars extensively. Your floor manager clearly knows your product line intimately. How about a little friendly competition?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The CEO's smile faltered. "I'm not sure I follow." "It's simple," Downey continued, warming to his idea. "A quick test of knowledge about this very car. If your manager wins, I'll apologize for disrupting your event, and Alex leaves quietly." His eyes gleamed with challenge. "But if Alex wins, Elite Motors offers him an internship in your engineering department." The crowd erupted in excited whispers. Someone at the back actually applauded. The manager looked stricken. "That's hardly necessary," Harrington began. But Downey cut him off. "On the contrary, I think it's exactly what's necessary." Downey addressed the room. "We're surrounded by luxury and exclusivity tonight, but what truly matters in this industry? Is it who can afford to buy these cars, or who can dream them into existence?" Alex stood frozen, barely breathing. This couldn't be happening. "Unless," Downey added with calculated precision, "Elite Motors is more concerned with marketing than actual innovation." The CEO recognized the trap immediately, refused the challenge, and he confirmed every criticism implied. Accept it, and he risked his employees' humiliation. Either way, the story would spread far beyond this room. "Very well," Harrington conceded with a tight smile. "A friendly demonstration of knowledge. Though I must say putting a teenager on the spot this way seems rather unfair." "I'll take that chance," Alex said, finding his voice at last. The crowd formed a semicircle around the Elite Phantom, the showroom's centerpiece. The floor manager straightened his tie, confidence returning as he stepped into his area of expertise. Alex stood opposite him, still clutching his notebook, but no longer opening it. 5 questions each," Downey announced, appointing himself moderator. "Starting with you," he nodded to the manager. "What's the top speed of the Elite Phantom?" the CEO asked his employee. 271 miles per hour, governed electronically for safety," the manager answered promptly. "And the horsepower?" 1,420 brake horsepower from the W16 engine. 0 to 60? 2.4 seconds. Production run number? Limited to 25 units worldwide. Price point? Starting at $3.7 million with customization options potentially doubling that figure. Charles Harrington nodded approvingly at his employee. then turned to Alex with barely concealed condescension. "Your turn, young man." Downey stepped in. "I'll ask Alex's questions if you don't mind." He thought for a moment. "What material is used for the crankshaft and why?" Alex didn't hesitate. "Forged steel with diamond-like carbon coating to reduce friction and increase durability under extreme torque conditions." The manager's smug expression faltered slightly. "Why does the Phantom use a quad-turbo setup rather than twin turbos?" "To eliminate turbo lag completely. The smaller turbos spool up instantly at low RPMs, while the larger ones provide boost at higher revs, creating a seamless power delivery across the entire range." Murmurs of appreciation spread through the crowd. Even some of the wealthy guests who couldn't explain the engineering were impressed by the confidence in Alex's delivery. "What's innovative about the cooling system?" Downey continued. "It uses a dual-circuit system with separated high and low-temperature radiators, plus electronically controlled airflow channels that open at specific speeds to optimize cooling without compromising aerodynamics." The manager was no longer smiling. Charles Harrington watched with growing concern. "Final question," Downey said. "What would you change about this car's design, and why?" Alex took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every gaze in the room. This wasn't just about winning a challenge anymore. This was his moment to prove that true passion transcends social barriers. "I would redesign the intake manifold," he said confidently. "The current configuration prioritizes sound profile over efficiency. By recalibrating the airflow dynamics and integrating a variable geometry system, you could increase power by approximately 8% while reducing carbon emissions." He paused. "And I'd implement the hybrid propulsion system from my designs, which would make this the most environmentally responsible hypercar on the market without sacrificing performance." The silence that followed was profound. The manager stared at his shoes. The CEO's expression was unreadable. Then, from the back of the crowd, a slow clap began. A silver-haired man in an impeccable suit, one who had earlier dismissed Alex, was applauding. "The boy knows his engineering," he admitted, turning to Harrington. "Reminds me of myself at that age, before I got caught up in making money instead of making things." Others joined the applause, hesitantly at first, then with growing enthusiasm. Even some of the staff, who had been rigidly professional throughout the evening, were smiling now. Charles Harrington recognized a PR opportunity when he saw one. His calculating mind had already shifted from damage control to advantage. "Elite Motors has always believed in nurturing the next generation of automotive excellence," he announced, smoothly inserting himself into the narrative. "Alex, we would be honored to offer you a position in our summer engineering program." Downey caught Alex's eye with a subtle look that said, "Don't settle." "Actually," Alex replied, surprising himself with his newfound confidence, "I'd prefer to discuss a development role that would allow me to work directly on implementing my hybrid system." A gasp rippled through the audience. The teenager was negotiating with a CEO worth billions. Harrington's smile tightened imperceptibly, but he recognized that dozens of phones were still recording. "We can certainly discuss the possibilities." "Wonderful," Downey interjected, "and I'd be happy to have my foundation provide Alex with a scholarship for his engineering degree." He turned to address the crowd. "After all, isn't this what we should be celebrating? Not just the finished products that money can buy, but the brilliant minds that dream them into existence." The audience erupted in applause, many now eager to position themselves in photos with the young engineering prodigy and the Hollywood star. 3 months later, Alex stood in the Elite Motors development facility, watching as engineers tested the first prototype, incorporating elements of his hybrid system. Robert Downey Jr. stood beside him, sunglasses pushed up on his head. "How does it feel?" Downey asked, gesturing to the sleek vehicle on the test platform. "Surreal," Alex admitted. 6 months ago, I was changing oil at my uncle's garage. Now I'm here." "You were always meant to be here," Downey replied. "You just needed someone to open the door. The talent was yours all along." The story had gone viral within hours of that night at the showroom. Engineering prodigy had trended for days. Elite Motors stock had risen 15% on the announcement of their new green hypercar initiative. The floor manager had been reassigned to a different division. More importantly, Elite Motors had launched a nationwide talent search, offering internships to young engineers from underprivileged backgrounds. The first class of 20 would start next month. "You know what the best part is?" Alex said, watching the data readings from the prototype's test run. "What's that?" "Proving that understanding something has more value than just being able to buy it." Downey smiled. "Some lessons are worth more than a $3 million car." "Even one with a redesigned intake manifold?" Alex asked with a grin. "Especially that one," Downey laughed, as the future of automotive engineering hummed to life before them.